How can a book that's more than 600 years old still feel so alive, so funny, and so much like us? Well, today we're diving into Geoffrey Chaucer's masterpiece, The Canterbury Tales, to find out.
Okay, so picture this. It's the late 1300s, and we're at an inn just outside London. A big crowd is getting ready to hit the road. But this isn't just any group of people. You've got a noble knight still dusty from the battlefield. Over there is this flashy, larger-than-life woman called the Wife of Bath. You've also got a shady-looking miller, a corrupt church official, a genuinely good-hearted priest. I mean, literally every walk of life is here. And they're all complete strangers, about to go on a road trip together.
And that's the big question, isn't it? What on earth could bring this incredibly random group of people together? I mean, what could possibly convince a saint and a sinner, a rich person and a poor one, to all head down the same road to the same place?
To figure that out, we first have to understand the trip itself. Think of it as a medieval road trip, and just like any road trip, the destination is everything.
To really get their motivation, you got to remember that life in the 14th century was, well, it was tough. Really tough. This was a world still reeling from the Black Death. There's constant war. Life expectancy was short, and just getting by was a daily struggle. For a lot of people, the promise of a better life in the next world, in heaven, wasn't just a nice thought. It was the main thing that kept them going.
So, yeah, people's faith was a huge part of their lives. And one way they showed that faith was by going on these long journeys called pilgrimages. They traveled to holy places to ask for forgiveness, to pray for a miracle, maybe a cure for an illness, or just to get some divine help with their problems. It was a physical journey they hoped would bring them closer to God.
And in all of England, there was one place that was the spot to go, the city of Canterbury. So, we know where our travelers are headed. But what made this one cathedral so special? Well, the answer? It's a story of a shocking murder.
Yeah, that's right. The whole reason Canterbury became this mega-famous destination is basically a true crime story. It's a tale of power, betrayal, and a really bad misunderstanding between a king and his best friend.
So, let's meet our victim, Thomas Becket. He was a good friend and a top advisor to one of England's most powerful kings, Henry II. They were tight. So Henry thinks he's making a brilliant move by making his loyal buddy the Archbishop of Canterbury, the most powerful religious job in the whole country. What could go wrong? Well, pretty much everything. See, Becket took his new job very seriously, maybe a little too seriously for the king. He started siding with the church instead of the crown, and it drove Henry nuts. One day, the king, totally fed up, supposedly yells out this famous line. Now, he probably didn't mean it literally. It was just a burst of anger. But some of his knights in the room didn't take it that way. They heard the king's words and thought, okay, the boss wants us to take care of a problem. So 4 of them rode straight for Canterbury. They didn't even hesitate. They stormed right into the cathedral and found Becket praying at the main altar.
And right there, in what was supposed to be the holiest, safest place in England, they murdered him. The news of an archbishop being assassinated inside his own cathedral sent shockwaves across all of Europe. Instantly, Becket was seen as a martyr and a saint, and the ground where he was killed became sacred.
And the echo of that moment is still there. If you visit Canterbury Cathedral today, you'll see this sculpture of swords marking the exact spot where he fell. This is why our pilgrims are on the road. They are all heading to Canterbury to pray at the shrine of St. Thomas Becket.
So we've got the where and the why, but what about the who? Who's the person who saw this whole scene, a bunch of strangers on a religious road trip, and thought, you know what, this would make a fantastic book? That would be this guy, Geoffrey Chaucer. Now, if you picture some dusty old writer locked away in a tower, forget it. That was not Chaucer at all. This guy was a man of the world, a diplomat, a soldier, a bureaucrat, and maybe most importantly, he was an amazing observer of people.
Chaucer's secret weapon was his own life experience. I mean, look at this resume. He wasn't born an aristocrat. He was the son of a winemaker. He worked as a royal messenger, a diplomat all over Europe, and a soldier who was even captured as a prisoner of war. He was in charge of the customs for the port of London, which was one of the busiest in the world. He was even in Parliament. The guy saw every single level of English society, from the bottom right to the top.
And that is the absolute key. Chaucer wasn't just dreaming up these characters. He was writing about the kinds of people he saw and dealt with every single day. He knew how they talked, how they dressed, what they wanted, and what secrets they were hiding. And because he had this incredible, real-world perspective, he was able to create a book that was totally revolutionary. It wasn't just a single story. It was a story about people telling stories.
The whole book is built on this brilliant idea we now call a frame story. The setup is simple. The journey to Canterbury is long, so the host of the inn suggests a contest. Everyone will tell stories to pass the time. So the pilgrimage itself is just the frame. The real magic, the pictures inside the frame, are all the wild, funny, and sometimes shocking tales the characters tell about themselves.
But maybe the most radical thing Chaucer did was the language he chose to write in. You see, at the time, any serious writing was done in French for the nobles or Latin for the church. English was just the everyday language of the common people. By writing this huge, ambitious work in English, Chaucer was making a massive statement. He was saying that the lives and stories of regular people were important and worthy of great art. He basically legitimized the English language, paving the way for, well, everyone from Shakespeare on.
And just listen to it. That's the opening description of the night. It's poetry, yeah, but it's clear and it's direct. For the very first time, English-speaking people could hear stories with characters that felt real, that sounded like people they knew. It was an absolute sensation.
The Canterbury Tales is this giant, monumental piece of literature, which makes it pretty surprising to find out that the book we have today, well, it's just a piece of the original plan.
Chaucer's original plan was enormous. He had about 30 pilgrims, and each was supposed to tell 4 stories. That's a book with over 120 tales. But he died before he could get anywhere close to finishing. In the end, he only wrote 24 of the stories. The book just stops. We don't even see them get back to London.
But even though it was unfinished, everybody knew right away how important this work was. Chaucer was given a massive honor. He was buried in Westminster Abbey. In fact, he was the very first writer to be laid to rest in the section we now call Poets' Corner. There's a reason we call him the father of English literature.
So, Chaucer used a pilgrimage to bring together all the different voices of his nation and give us a perfect snapshot of his world, which leaves us with a fun question to think about. If you wanted to do that today, what journey would you choose to get a snapshot of our world? A cross-country flight? The line at the DMV? A crowded music festival? What journey today tells the story of us?